Hey, this is State Representative Jeffrey Elmore with your weekly session update for April 23rd. Sorry that the session update hasn't been posted before now. I had a wonderful visit this morning to West Alexander Middle School, home of the Bulldogs. It was a very nice visit. Got to observe several classes and meet many of the students. Also had a small group discussion with some of the teachers about summer school that's coming up, teacher pay, several things that are affecting them directly, and so it was very productive. Shout out to the Bulldogs on the wonderful visit this morning, and I'll be posting some photos from that on the Facebook page, so you can look at those later. Let me talk to you a little bit about the highlights this week in the North Carolina House. First, Wednesday was a very important day. We had many wounded veterans that attended the House session. Also, there was a big event sponsored by the Independence Fund, which supports wounded veterans, on the Halifax Mall, which is out in front of the legislative building. And the governor signed HB 138, which is Wounded Heroes Day. And what this does is this is going to recognize on April 24th annually Wounded Veterans Day. So that's coming up tomorrow, and I'll be doing a post about that. But he signed that into law, so our first Wounded Veterans Day, April 24th, will be coming up tomorrow. Something else that passed the House today this week was HB 370, No Veteran Left Behind Act. And what this is a pilot program that we're establishing that will start out in our military-based counties. And what this does, this pilot, is it links with a nonprofit to help first responders and policemen in training in dealing with combat wounded veterans. Because many times when there is an interaction with law enforcement, it can create a difficult situation because the PTSD, different factors that have affected these veterans, they react differently, and our law enforcement currently does not have any sort of training in that. This helps with that. It also helps with placement. If a combat wounded veteran is placed in the judicial system, let's say that they're in jail, can they get them connected to the VA to help them with their mental health services? This pilot is going to be introduced. We're going to see how well that it works, so we can hopefully in a few years take this statewide. So it's very exciting. It's very heartfelt, the session, because many of these wounded veterans came to the floor. We knew about their stories. Other members talked about their interactions with various combat wounded veterans. So very good thing that we're doing there. We also passed HB 351. This is called Clifford's Law. And this is in reaction to the COVID restrictions with nursing homes, combination homes, and hospice care facilities. Many of these facilities would not allow any visitor whatsoever in because of the pandemic. We felt like that could create a very serious situation, not just emotionally for the patient, but even from a legal perspective. So what this bill does, it orders that the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services develop protocols for future pandemics to where a person is entitled legally to at least one visitor that is allowed in, and that could be their attorney, that could be their spouse, that could be their child, whoever the person determines, but legally they are entitled to that one visitor to be able to take care of whatever they need to take care of. Just because that they're in a nursing home shouldn't mean that they lose all rights to interaction, especially from a legal perspective. So I was happy to see Clifford's Law pass. It's now over into the Senate. I want to talk to you about a few bills that were filed this week that I've co-sponsored, and then I'll tell you about one that has moved over to the Senate. First, I co-sponsored HB 562. This is funds to support the arts. We call this Restart the Arts. Artist venues have really suffered under COVID because many of their sales, their receipts, how they generate their money is done through festivals, public venues, auditoriums, stadiums, etc. They've got to sell tickets to be able to make money. Well, with all of the shutdown, they've been unable to do that. Also, even with the restrictions being lifted, for the magnitude of, let's say, a concert hall, they still can't meet the capacity to make it profitable with the ticket sales. So we're finally seeing the arts community begin to come out of the shadows with the economic impact. But how does it restart? Are the resources there to actually get it moving again? Because basically they have lost 2 years of revenue, and their ability to reopen has been slowed, even slower than our other businesses. So I was excited to co-sponsor that. Also, I filed HB 621. This has increased the dropout age and the completion indicator. What this is this is going to increase the dropout age from age 16 to age 18, but it's going to do it in a gradual process over a 5-year period to see if it's actually working and having an effect. I'm very concerned for many of our students with COVID being remote only. Let's say that they struggled prior to the pandemic. Now they've been through virtual classes. They may be several credits behind. I'm scared that many of our students are just going to throw up their hands and say, I'm done. I'm just going to go ahead and drop out. And the statistics are clear. A person who's dropped out of school, their economic success, their ability to manage themselves, is very, very hard, especially in today's climate. I think this is a positive move. I think this is a move that needs to happen now, because I am terrified that we're going to see our dropout rate increase, and we've worked for so many years in North Carolina to get that very, very low, all because of the way school has been handled in COVID. So hopefully we can see some movement, or at least some discussion on that. I also co-sponsored HB 608. This is called Dignity for Women Who Are Incarcerated Act. We found out that females who were in jail or in prisons that were pregnant, and it becomes time for them to have their child, that they were actually being shackled to the beds. And the justification for that was safety reasons in the medical facility. But I want you to just imagine a female going through childbirth being shackled. What this does, it clarifies the rules on that to where law enforcement does not have to shackle this prisoner during the childbirth process. I think this bill has support from the Sheriff's Association, the prison system, and hopefully we'll see some movement on that. Also dealing in the academic realm, I filed HB 644 called Remote Academics. Both systems here in the 94th have made requests if your child would be interested in continuing with remote-only learning. What this does, right now we really don't have a standard for remote-only instruction in the public schools. It's basically the Wild West. They can handle it however they want to. What this bill does is creates a standard, basic parameters that an online school or virtual academy that the public school is having meet certain standards to make sure that the instruction is quality, to make sure that the teacher is not having to both do in-person and out-of-person, that when you do create these virtual-only schools, that they are freestanding schools, at least on paper. So it gives some clarification on that, some parameters, so we don't have different style virtual academies all over the state. Also, a bill that passed the House this week was dealing with mandatory training counting towards CEUs. I was happy this got unanimous support in the House, and now it's moving to the Senate. As a teacher, we have numerous mandatory trainings that we have to do because of employment. Coronavirus training, bloodborne pathogens, active shooter. It just goes on and on and on, and we really do not get any sort of training credit for that. This would allow for those to count towards training credits, so I was really excited to see that. We are still working in the budget process. The budget is in the Senate currently, waiting to see their product. There's still loose discussions going on the revenue end, which is the tax side, and loose discussions on the expenditure end. So that work continues. As always, we'll be very busy, and I look forward to talking to you next week.